Hi, and welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I am back in Las Vegas at the Delano Hotel, which is right inside Mandalay Bay. And today I wanted to focus on the issue of minimalism in terms of room design. If you've had the chance to stay at the Delano, you know that the design of the room is rather minimalist in nature. So I thought I'd take an opportunity to talk about what minimalism means in terms of design and its significance thinking about other room designs and other resort designs on the Las Vegas Strip. So let me talk to you about this issue today here in Las Vegas. Okay, so as we talk about minimalism and design, I thought it'd be important to reflect on some of the foundations. So certainly in the world of art, we can think about minimalism as well as in the worlds of music and architecture, of course. So in art, some people suggest that the term minimalism goes back to 1915 or so for referencing a very famous Russian painting that had a pretty stark image of a black square encompassed by a white square. And so minimalism, I think, suggests, at least in the world of art, that there's a stripping back of the elements. There's a sense of simplicity, there's a sense of focusing on a rawness, on something that is maybe expressed in as few elements as possible. Of course, there's a lot of variation and there's a lot of different movements that have spawned after minimalism, including post-minimalism. And of course, it's also important to say that within the world of architecture, we've seen significant influence of minimalistic design. The work of Mies van der Rohe comes to mind with the less is more philosophy, certainly in thinking about the starkness of minimalistic design. I think you see some of that influence here at the Delano, and what I'll do in this video is show you some images and videos of the room with some voiceover, and also focus on comparing the Delano's room with some other rooms I've stayed in, both minimalistic and more, I guess you could say, maximalistic in design, or at least more thematic design. So I'll take you on a tour and show you some of these elements and make some comparative statements about this effect of minimalism on the guest in terms of the experience here at the Delano in Las Vegas. Okay, so we'll do a tour today of the Delano, primarily in the room, but I'll talk a little bit about some of the common areas as well. These first images you're seeing, one of the curious things and what inspired me to do this video was just the color scheme of the room. It looks green, it's not green at all, and I'll show you some footage later on video that kind of accurately reflects the white starkness of the room. One of the things the Delano boasts, and the Delano, by the way, is the signature hotel at the Mandalay Bay. It used to be the hotel, and then they started the transition in 2014. The Delano has a location in South Beach, and you see the living area here. They boast one of the largest standard size rooms on the Strip at an average of 725 square feet. And one of the curious things is that there is a minimal nod to FDR, hence the name the Delano. This is one of the cards in the room advertising Skyfall, which I didn't get a chance to go to. I guess it has some amazing views up on one of the top floors. It's their bar, and they have a champagne hour there for guests. This is right before you check in the lobby area, some of the artwork, and there's a Colorado River theme you see with some of the boulders and some of the patterns on the carpeting. You know, I think the Delano is an example of a minimalistic approach to design because everything is so subtle and soft-spoken, unlike some of the other hotels I'll compare it to in this video, say the Berlin hotel scene. This is Adela's kitchen. Didn't get a chance to try, but I thought amazing design as far as the restaurant layout. These last few images will focus on, you know, some of the common areas. So very, you know, subtle and appropriate, I think. This is one of the quotes just as you're leaving and heading towards the Mandalay. Tough times never last, but tough people do. And then we see one of the bars, again, the lobby area. You could just see really classy design. I think approaching some of the stuff you see at City Center in different sense. This was the area just as you're walking in front of Della's kitchen. And we'll see a second shot here as well. So again, I think a classy approach to design here at the Delano in Las Vegas. Okay, I'll now take you inside. Some of the video I shot with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. A challenging room to shoot, you know, when you have this level of white in terms of the color palette. It's a real challenge just visually. As I showed you earlier, some of that came off as green on the still images. This shows you the room. Now, I think you get the sense here that the most activity, the most visually arresting thing is this image of the, I assume it's a man and a woman in water. It's somewhat avant-garde. There's a distortion caused by the, you know, wave effect and the light and so forth there. You can see. I know that, you know, they have another location in Miami and South Beach, so it'd be interesting to compare and contrast. If you've been to that one, maybe post some of your comments here on YouTube or tell me about it, post some video, because I don't get a chance to go everywhere, obviously. And one of the things I didn't get the Delano reference as far as FDR, and I just happened to look it up afterwards, and I'm looking back there, there's an ice bucket, and maybe I'll try to go back and do a freeze frame on that. But I read online that the ice buckets here at the Delano are inspired by an FDR hat box. So I thought that was kind of interesting. There doesn't seem to be a lot of explicit referencing of FDR, but that's, you know, part of it, maybe more in name only. Again, the thing you notice when you come in the room is you're almost enveloped in the subtlety of the design. It's very well done, but it's also very different compared to anything else I've seen in the past. Now, one of the things I think that is interesting in thinking about room design is, does the mood of the room, in a sense, carry you? Does it affect you, right? Or kind of the converse situation, can the mood of what's outside the room, let's say if you're in Las Vegas, you're in a exciting casino or an exciting part of the city, can that have more an effect on you, and thus there's less requirement of the room to provide you with that ambiance and mood and affect, or whatever you want to call it. Of course, there's a complementarity, right? You could say that the theming in a room, particularly you go to like Legoland and their themed hotels, the rooms and the common spaces, including the pool and the restaurants, are all themed together. You get that more with, say, the Venetian in Las Vegas. Not huge, heavily themed in the room, but there's, Italian theming and Italian charm. So that's definitely a part of it. And so for me, it becomes a question, I think, of what is the appropriate way to theme a room, to design it? There is no right or wrong, and that's why we have to do ethnographic studies to ask people specifically, what did you feel like? How did the room impact you? Did you want something that was more over the top, that was more exciting, or did you like this sense of subtlety, the sense of calm maybe that's provided by a color design like this, and room accents that are also, I think, very minimalistic in nature? So it's something to think about in terms of our studies of room design in hotels. Okay, I thought it might be useful to compare what we see at the Delano with some other hotels around the world. So the first here is the 25 Hours by Levi's in Frankfurt. And by the way, all these hotels, I have video features on them, so you can watch those. I'm not going to redo all that here. But I'm trying to contrast with the minimalism of the Delano. In this case, we have the heavy, these are some of the common areas, just heavy theming, the influence of Levi's, the brand association, the lifestyle associations. This is inside the room. I mean, just compare this, even the light fixture, the cabinetry, the details in the cabinets, to what we saw at the Delano. The Sgt. Pepper's Beatles Yellow Submarine here, you could see on the wall. I mean, what a contrast in terms of what you see with the Delano. The next is in Berlin. This is the 25 Hours, favorite hotel of mine. You can actually borrow a guitar and amp to take to your room. It's a music-themed hotel. These are some of the art spaces. Very Berlin, right? You look at this, stark yet graphic and avant-garde with the artistic design. This is inside the room. Now, a similarity to the Delano, I think, is the prevalence of one color. In this case, it's pink and not white. The pink is really pronounced in the guest rooms at the Enhau in Berlin. Here's the common area, more guitars on the wall, the postmodernist sculpture. Ton of just innovative design. This is a night scene. You could see the piano and some of the sculpture and the wall hangings. So quite a contrast in terms of mood, in terms of atmospherics, compared to the Delano. Here's back inside the room at the Enhau in Berlin. You can see the floor very busy in terms of the design on the floor. And then here's the exterior. So you can see the exterior, I think, conveys something similar to what is inside the room in terms of this rather avant-garde design. And another hotel to look at, this is called the Farmer's Daughter. This is in Los Angeles. It's right across from the LA Farmer's Market. They've taken a farm theme here, and this is one of my favorite boutique design hotels. This is the gift shop right near the lobby, the front desk. Very bohemian sort of approach. There's another image here of the commons area. So they're taking, with the fonts and the design and the choice of colors and materials and the fabrics and the wall hangings and so forth, an embellishment of a particular theme, but they're modernizing it. And as you can see, this is inside the room. Very busy, right? Very complex in terms of all the offerings, the snack bar offerings there. Just a lot happening here compared to what you see with the starkness at the Delano. Again, I'm not taking a pro or con on this. I'm just showing you differences. This is another example of some of the fabrics. I think their design choice with fabrics is just marvelous in terms of executing their theme. And this is a shadow box art piece inside. Each room has an interesting art piece. So again, quite a contrast with what you see with the Delano. Now, one last hotel back to Vegas, like the Delano, is the Cosmopolitan. Had a chance to stay there, and I've done a video feature on the Cosmopolitan room. You should definitely check that out. And by the way, check out my video on the Aria room, because those are nice contrasts, I believe, with what we see at the Delano. And you can see the lobby at the Cosmopolitan, very heavy, maximalist, more focused. This is me talking in my feature about the Cosmopolitan, about the room, and some of the interactivity as far as what you can do with the TV set, the lights, and so forth. So, use these as examples as we compare and contrast with the more sparse, minimalistic design of the Delano in Las Vegas. And I think one of the issues to think about in terms of minimalism in the art world is the issue of the engagement of the viewer. Some people have critiqued minimalism, stating that in a sense you move the viewer away from his or her engagement within the work of art, if you will, within the world of the art, into a realm of abstraction in which there is no longer engagement but more spectacle. We often think of spectacle in a different sense when we talk about the Las Vegas Strip. I think what's interesting here at the Delano, in terms of the room design at least, and you'll find this throughout the lobby as well, is there is a sparseness of design. And so the question becomes, how does that tie back into with this issue of engagement, not of the viewer of the art, but in this case of the guest or visitor to the resort hotel or the casino? Okay, as I promised, I'm zooming this in here. This is the ice bucket that we've been talking about. You can see it there. I didn't know this when I was in the room. So I found an image online that made the comparison. So the idea is that this is made to appear like FDR's hat boxes, his distinctive hats and so forth. So kind of a cool feature that I didn't know until I read about it after the fact. Now, I really recommend to you this piece, August 17th, Las Vegas Sun, talking about the Delano's new sense of self. It's a great article, and it compares some of the hotel design at SLS and the Delano. And one of the cool things they talk about is how it's a challenge when you're rebranding from the hotel to the Delano, given the fact that you're inside the Mandalay Bay. Even the design of the building, the exterior, the golden appearance, right, of the outside. So it's a great article. I really recommend it because it highlights some of these things that we're talking about, getting down to what does the guest expect and so forth. And that's one of the things I think, as we maybe close this discussion today, to consider in the future. And this is, as MGM, controls more and more properties, how does one hotel within a hotel, like in this case, the Delano within the Mandalay, distinguish itself from the other MGM properties or from the Mandalay Bay itself. I mean, it's an interesting and curious issue. One way to do that, of course, is through design, and I think certainly they've done that here in many notable respects. Now, the other thing I think we could close on today is back to this issue of engagement. So we ask ourselves some good questions here about maybe what is guest engagement? If I'm staying in a hotel, what do I want out of that hotel? What are the values or moods or sensibilities I'm looking for? Is it excitement? Is it serenity? Is it calm? Is it a sense of joy? And I think this is going to impact what you do for the guests in terms of the design, in terms of the offerings, in terms of how you brand yourself. Again, go back to some of my hotel comparisons from Berlin and so forth, or even in Los Angeles with Farmer's Daughter. The challenge, of course, is that when you have multiple demographic groups coming to Las Vegas, you have to think about, am I marketing to all these groups, or do I want to get very specific? And I think, a hotel like the SLS that I mentioned, in rebranding itself, maybe has some challenges in terms of thinking about what is their demographic. Likewise, as Resorts World, which is reported to be close to $7.2 billion in the making, as they open, will they cater primarily to Asian guests and customers? Will they cater to other cultures and ethnic groups and age groups and so forth? Just recently, I read a story that they actually tried to make their theming a little younger, if you will. They were concerned that it wasn't going to come off as hip, and so the delay in the opening of Resorts World is because of a redesign. So important questions to think about here at the Delano in Las Vegas. So I hope you enjoyed the video feature today here talking about minimalistic room design here at the Delano in Las Vegas. Please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.